Okay, so still waiting and hoping for more people to join in here as well as on Facebook Live. And thank you to the ones who've decided that Friday evenings are not just for outings. Anyways, there's not enough to go out with these days, but thank you for being here. Thank you for taking out this time. All right, without further ado, so we have, this is a FIAPO webinar on the Doctors for One Health program. We have a webinar today on benefits of plant-based diet for disease prevention and reversal. And we have somebody very special here with us for this topic. He is, you may have seen him on Sampoorna Ahara portal. You may have heard of it. You may have heard of nutritionscience.in. He's a co-founder for both of these ventures, and he's a naturopathy doctor, and he also specializes in plant-based diet and how whole food plant-based diet for good benefits of health and overall all health benefits and disease prevention, reversal, both the things. So we have Dr. Achyuthan Eswar with us, and welcome, doctor. Please, you're on mute right now. So yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. It is really amazing to have you on board with us. Your time is precious. We know you're busy, but this is a lot that you're doing. So just tell us a bit about yourself and how, you decided to, move into the plant-based medicine or the plant-based diet thing. How did it happen for you?
Sure. Thank you so much, Sarita and FIAPO for organizing this webinar. It means a lot to me to be able to reach out to so many people online and in your homes to be able to help you eat healthier with what I've learned over the years. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for making this happen. My name is Dr. Achyuthan Eswar. I'm the co-founder of nutritionscience.in and sampoornaahara.com, which is India's first whole food plant-based social enterprise. The journey started when I was when I was 12 years old, actually. I wanted to grow up to heal people without medicines. After exploring a lot of different, methods like yoga and exercise and affirmations and energy healing and all of these things, I studied to become a yoga naturopathy physician. After I became a doctor, having realized that I'm still not really sure what to do, I discovered plant-based nutrition. My grandparents had been suffering from diabetes and hypertension for over 30 years at that time. My grandfather one day suddenly started vomiting blood. We were all really surprised and shocked. We rushed him to the hospital. He was diagnosed with internal bleeding, a side effect of a medicine that he had been taking for his hypertension for many, many years, decades. So the doctors reduced the dose. Within a couple of days, it got better. They sent him back home. But within just a week's time, the vomiting started again. It repeated again and again until my grandfather said, enough is enough. I want a permanent solution. So he and my grandmother went to the Pavitra Nature and Yoga Hospital in Coimbatore, where they undertook a plant-based diet, started practicing yoga every day. In just 10 days' time, they reduced their weight by 10 kgs. They reduced their medications by 90%, brought their sugar and blood pressure back to normal for the first time in over a decade, came back home completely transformed. They were my inspiration, and that's when I decided to dedicate my life to lifestyle medicine and helping people discover the power of evidence-based nutrition. From there, we started treating patients. After treating a few thousand patients, we created a website where we teach plant-based nutrition online, and we opened Sampoorna Ahara, which is a whole food plant-based kitchen. We now home deliver meals, plant-based meals all over Bangalore, and sweets and snacks and all kinds of goodies all over India as well. That's our journey so far.
So, Dr. Eswar, you said something that, how you said evidence-based, right? So just help us understand this in terms of, how from your own journey is just the evidence, or how do you get people who are convinced about plant-based diet, or whom you have to then convince and help them understand that this is the right way to take care of your health? How does it work? Like,
Sure,
where's the evidence?
sure. So let me share an anecdote, a story from my and my family's life, right? When my grandparents came back home, I knew by that time I'd seen a few hundred patients undergo this hospital treatment at naturopathy centers. And I knew that people would go to these centers, change their diet completely, 10 days, experience amazing magic. Then they go back home, they return the next year, right? We've seen patients come back for 5 years, 10 years. Every year they'd go for 10 days, lose 10 kgs, go back home, put on 15 kgs, and come back the next year with more problems. So we knew that it's not those 10 days, but it's the rest of the diet they eat at home that really makes a long-term difference. So when my grandparents came back, we would cook separately for them. We'd cook, your boiled vegetables and porridge and nothing with oil, nothing with high salt. We'd cook a patient's diet for them. But the rest of us were eating normal food because we were healthy. Why should we change our diets, right? Until I read the study that was published in India from a group of scientists in Madras in 1961. So this group of scientists wanted to find out how many people in India have heart disease without knowing about it. I'll give you a little background to this. As of today, heart disease is our #1 killer. It's the most likely reason why you, me, and our families are going to die. It kills more people than any other disease in our country right now, right? But in the 60s, it was not the #1 killer. People were not even heard of heart disease at that time. It was slowly increasing and becoming more and more prevalent. And also, heart disease is not like a cold. You don't, you can't suddenly catch a heart attack out of the blue. That's very rare. Usually what happens is you need to have atherosclerosis, that's heart disease, for several years. And then something happens and you end up with a heart attack, right? So what they did was they took 500 people who had died from unrelated causes, like road traffic accidents. Healthy people like you and me would unfortunately passed away. Cut open their chests, took a piece of their arteries and put it under a microscope to find out how many healthy Indians already have heart disease. Right? What do you think they found? They thought that they will get a small number, 10, 15, 20% maybe, right? But instead, what they found was by age 20, every single Indian, 100% of the people they tested already had the starting stages of heart disease. By age 10 to 20, 95% of children also have heart disease. We now know today, after several more research studies, that heart disease starts, the predisposition starts before we are born, when we're just a fetus in our mother's womb, depending on our mother's diet. And then after we're born, by the time we're 10 years old, the first stage starts off in every one of our hearts, every one of our arteries rather. By the time we're 20, 30 years old, develops into plaques and then starts killing us off as heart attacks, strokes, gangrene, and aneurysms. When we read that study, my entire family decided, okay, I think it's about time. It's no longer about my grandparents reversing their disease, but it's about how all of us can reverse our heart disease before we end up with a heart attack or get diagnosed, right? So we decided then to change our diet altogether as a family. And this is the same story that I tell almost every patient that I get of, how do you stay healthy and how does your family stay healthy? The path is quite straightforward. To reverse heart disease and prevent it from developing in the first place, research has found that the ideal solution is to eat a healthy diet, exercise, and maintain mental peace every day of your life. That's easy to say, but it's difficult to do. The biggest difficulty is not knowing enough. You ask 5 people on the road, what is a healthy diet? One person might say it's a vegan diet. Another one might say it's a balanced diet. A third one might say sattvic diet. Fourth one might say what my grandmother gives me at home. Every one of us has our concept of a healthy diet, but research has found that the healthiest diet that can reverse our #1 leading cause of death is a whole food, plant-based diet. And it works miracles in days to weeks to months. plaques start dissolving, arteries start opening up. Now, while technically it may not be a completely reversible condition in the sense that it's never going to go back to a state of health, but your risk of dying from a heart attack may reduce from 80% to 10%. I think that's more than good enough to make a change for the better. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, that definitely does. And I think, how you said that this whole experiment that you talked about, how even before the diagnosis or us knowing the problem, it's developing inside us. And wow, I was blown away when you said that in this level of being a fetus and what your parents are eating is also really impacting you. So yes, it doesn't only make sense to go take up a healthy diet for ourselves, but for the sake of the people that we're trying to bring into this world as well.
Absolutely.
Understand. So, the topic is definitely about the benefits of plant-based diet, and we did not say whole food. So, I'd leave it to you to how you want to talk about this. But I do have one thing to ask you before we go ahead. So, this connotation of boiled food, really, what happens to the taste then? The appeal of the food also has to do with, if you don't enjoy your meal, it's not really going to do good to your body. Also, is a thing that we hear a lot. So what about that? What about this aspect? If you're going to cover it in any way, it would be really amazing to know that the taste is something that we all go after in our
Sure, absolutely. When you say healthy food, the first thing people think of is a bowl of kanji or porridge with some boiled vegetables on the side and maybe a bowl of fruit, and that's about it. But the truth is, we can eat practically anything we want to eat as long as we use the right ingredients and the cooking methods. That's about it, right? So instead of explaining about it, let me show you what we actually do. Can I share my screen here? I think it should be possible. Okay, can you see this? The screen? Yeah, okay, great. Right. So let me just give you a snapshot of what we cook at the Sampoorna Ahara kitchen here in Bangalore. Not a single drop of oil in any of these foods, not a single drop of dairy. There are no animal products. We have bakarwadis, there's masala cookies, there's matris, there are peanut butter cookies, there's garlic save and ribbon pakoda and kara sidai and murk, there's chakli. And then there are sweets. There is kaju barfi, and there is kobri mitai, there is rose laddus, there are truffles, there are chocolates, there are, we have B12 enriched flaxseed laddus. We have breads, we have spreads, we have, your whole grain breads, there are wheat breads, there's oat breads, there is millet bread, there's almond bread, there's buns, there is, pizza bases, there's naans, right? And we have ready to eat meals, breakfast jars, and not just on the website, but I'll show you what I'm going to eat for dinner towards the end of this webinar, right? We have meals
That's
that
amazing.
look like this, right? So the possibilities are limitless. You can prepare pretty much anything you want. And what you see on the screen is a typical meal that we eat, that I eat on a daily basis. There's fruits, there's something crunchy, there is your rice or millet or wheat or roti or dosa or idli or bhaji bonda pakoda. There is raitas, pachadis, there are vegetables, there are gravies. I think I'll stop now, stop making everyone hungry. so,
Yeah.
so you can practically eat anything and everything you want. All you need to do is make sure it's cooked the right way with the right ingredients, and that's it. It's as simple as that. We'll delve more into that during this webinar today. Great. So is there anything else you'd like to ask? Any question?
No. There are no specific questions. I think you should please take this ahead.
Okay. All right. Great. So before we start the presentation, I would love to know who is attending this webinar here on Zoom. I hope all of you can see the raise hand function. If everyone can just click it once and raise your hand, I'll know that you're all there. Okay, great. I can see most of you have done it. All right. Awesome. Awesome. So how many of you are from a healthcare background? You have doctors, nurses, health coaches, nutritionists, you have patients, clients, you treat them to get healthier. Love to see you all with your hands raised. All right. Great. So about a third to a half almost. Great. Lovely.
Eight
That's wonderful.
something right now.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It's my favorite crowd. Wonderful. Wonderful. So for all of you, I would love to share with you what I discovered as a doctor so many years back, and that has helped me, helped my patients, helped my loved ones to live a healthier life and hopefully to live a longer life going forward in the future as well. Right. Let me start once again with a story of what happened when we discovered that a plant-based diet is healthy for us. We started off, like most people, just eating boiled rice and dal and boiled vegetables. We did it for 3 long months until we got completely fed up. We were simply not able to eat this stuff any longer. And this was years back, like 7, 8 years back. And then we started realizing that, what if we add a little bit of chili, a little bit of ginger, pepper, turmeric, which turned out to be the healthiest food. So we discovered more and more ways in which we could actually cook delicious food, enjoy our food, enjoy what we eat on a daily basis. We started busting the myth that healthy food cannot be the same as tasty food. At the same time, what was happening in the kitchen was translating to amazing health benefits for me and my family before I even started practicing as a doctor. Every one of us lost about 20 kgs of weight on average at home. I used to be 81 kgs and today I'm about 65, right? I was quite overweight throughout my childhood and eventually lost weight when I switched to a plant-based diet. Then when I started my practice, I started consulting patients one-on-one, and I started teaching them about what actually happens inside your body when you fall sick with a chronic disease. And because of that, how do you change your lifestyle and start eating healthier? And I'd like to share with you what I share with every one of my patients. I hope that this helps you to understand your body, your health, and how you can make your life all the more healthier by making your diet all the more delicious. So the biggest, most common diseases today are diabetes, obesity, hypertension, PCOS, and heart disease. So I'd like to talk about these diseases today. So every time we eat food, I'll tell you what happens in a normal body. Then it'll be very easy to understand what goes wrong in diabetes. Right? So bear with me for some time. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to send a message. We'll be happy to explain it again. Right? So every time we eat food, the glucose gets digested, absorbed, and goes through our blood vessels to all the cells of the body. The problem is our cells cannot absorb glucose by themselves. They need the help of insulin in order to do this. It's like you enter an apartment complex. You're looking for a house you want to go inside. You need a key to open the door, otherwise you're not going to be able to enter the house, right? Like that, when glucose wants to enter our cells, it needs the insulin key in order to enter. So insulin opens the door, glucose enters, and every cell is like a house. In our house, we have rooms, we have a hall, dining room, bedrooms, and we have the kitchen. Like that, every cell has the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. So the glucose goes into the mitochondria and gets burnt. Like literally, like you have a wood fire, you light the wood and make fire and then cook your food on it. Like that, glucose gets burnt to produce energy, which the cell then uses, right? And then the cell uses that energy to keep itself alive and healthy and do all its work. Now, all of this is great. The problem is when we burn glucose, along with energy, we also produce something called free radicals. That's where things starts going wrong. Free radicals are like the smoke and sparks that you see coming out of a wood fire, right? That's what free radicals are like inside every one of our cells. They're highly unstable molecules, and they go and start affecting all the other molecules around them. It's like a zombie movie, right? You get bitten, you become a zombie, and then you go around biting others and turning them into zombies. The free radical kind of works that way. You have one free radical molecule, it can turn the next molecule into a free radical, and then the next one, the next one. It spreads like a chain reaction through the cell, disrupting the work of the cell everywhere it goes. If this free radical damage happens in the cell membrane, then it can damage the doors of the cell, jamming the doors, preventing them from opening. So the glucose that's sitting outside trying to open the door with insulin, which we discussed about, it's not able to open the door. The doors are jammed, right? So it just stays in the blood, causing high blood sugar, and that's diabetes. If the same damage happens in the DNA of the cell, that can cause a mutation leading to cancer. If the same damage happens in our arteries can become stiff and unable to expand correctly when blood flows through them. They become stiff and tight, contracted all the time, and that causes high blood sugar. It's like when you're watering a garden, if you squeeze the end of the hose pipe, the water shoots out like a jet, right? So then you can water the plants right at the end. That's kind of what happens in high blood pressure. Our arteries contract and the back pressure on the heart increases, just like the water pressure increases in the pipe. All of this ties back to that free radical molecule that's produced when glucose gets burnt, right? Now, nature has designed our food in such a way that every time we eat a food with energy, carbohydrate, fat, or protein, we also get nutrients that help us stay healthy, antioxidants. We've all heard of antioxidants. Antioxidants are the opposite of free radicals. You can remember it that way, right? A free radical has a missing electron, an antioxidant has an extra electron, if you want to get into the technical details. So a free radical can be neutralized by an antioxidant, which basically, if you want to imagine this in your mind, imagine a cell with a small kitchen. There's a fire burning, there's smoke and sparks coming out, and there is a fire extinguisher outside the door. So whenever there's too much fire, you take the fire extinguisher, spray a little bit, dull the fire down, and everyone stays safe. That extinguisher is the free radical. Now, the thing is, these free radicals in nature, the biggest class of molecules that act as free radicals are called phytonutrients, right? Phytonutrients literally translates to plant nutrients. Phyto means plants and nutrients are nutrients, right? So plant nutrients, these are nutrients which plants themselves prepare to stay healthy for themselves. Like, I'll give you an example that I'm sure you already know, right? You may be surprised that it's phytonutrient. Chlorophyll. We all know about chlorophyll, right? What does chlorophyll do? It traps sunlight, it converts it into energy, which the cell uses to produce glucose in plants and green leaves. Now, chlorophyll is a phytonutrient, it's a phytochemical. Research has shown that when you eat green leafy vegetables, half an hour later, you go stand in the sun, the energy production in your body goes up. I was shocked when I read the study. I read it when I was in my third year in college. I was shocked because, wow, I can make energy from sunlight. If I just eat enough green leaves, that's amazing. And that's what chlorophyll does. It does that work in plants. It can do the same work in your body if you just eat green leaves and stand in the sun. There is a saying in almost all Indian languages, don't eat greens after the sun sets, right? I'm sure you have an equivalent in your language, And the reasoning given for it is because greens only get digested when the sun is out, right? But look at it this way. If you eat greens when the sun is out, that's when you're able to get the maximum benefit from those greens. You can literally make energy from sunlight. You eat it after sunset, you may not be able to do that, right? That gives a whole new meaning to that saying. Another saying, right? Don't eat amla on Sundays. You may have heard of this, right? If you haven't, then ask your grandparents. They'll know about it for sure, right? Don't eat amla on Sundays. That actually means eat amla at least 6 days a week, right? Forget about Sundays. If someone tells you eat amla 6 days a week, you're not going to remember it. But don't eat amla on Sunday. Oh, that's weird. I'm going to remember that, right? So eat it at least on 6 days a week. Why? Maybe because amla is by antioxidant content the healthiest food on planet Earth. It has the highest concentration of antioxidants. It has been proven to help reduce blood sugar, reduce blood pressure, reduce cholesterol, and a whole bunch of other added benefits as well. And amla seems to be the so there is a genetic factor called lipoprotein A, LPA, which determines our predisposition to heart disease. Even if you're eating an absolutely healthy diet, if you have that particular gene and if your lipoprotein A levels are high, you can still end up with a heart attack. But amla seems to be the only food that can bring these levels down significantly. Right? So one of the healthiest foods out there. There is a saying in pretty much every Indian language that makes you remember to eat it on a daily basis. In fact, at Sampoorna Ahara, every single meal has green leafy vegetables and amla in it. I mean, you won't realize because it's mixed up in the salad, it's in the sabji, it's in the sambar. You may not even realize you're eating amla, but you're eating it. Those are easy ways by which you can get it into your diet, right? So going back to the cell, what happens inside our body? Every time we eat a whole plant food, a food that is rich in phytonutrients and phytochemicals and antioxidants, no matter what free radicals are produced inside, our body is able to get the fire extinguishers it needs to keep itself healthy, to protect itself from that damage. The problem is when we consume animal foods or processed foods, we don't get these phytonutrients. We end up with all of the other stuff, the stuff we know about, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and all of that, which we get our nutrition, but we end up with chronic disease, which is exactly what's happening all over our country today. Right? So, in very, very simple terms, that is how we prevent, treat, and in many cases, even reverse diseases like diabetes, like high blood pressure, PCOS, polycystic ovarian disease. We reverse even chronic ischemic heart disease just by using a healthy whole food plant-based diet. Now, this is the science, right? And I hope I didn't go too far. I hope you're all with me and awake, right? But how do we translate this into practicality? What do we actually do in our kitchen to put this into action? You know, we did it for 3 months. We had only boiled food, and that's not an approach I recommend to anybody because we now know better. We can eat absolutely delicious food, and I'm going to demonstrate it with some practical examples right here, right now. So this is a breakfast jar that we got from the Sampoorna Ahara kitchen. Right? I think it has a pomegranates at the bottom. There is a layer of chocolate, which is cocoa powder. There are sapotas in there. There are dates. There are raisins. There are a few other fruits all mixed up and ground up in a blender. And then there's a layer of chia seeds, which are quite delicious. And there's a top layer of a fruit puree. This is a jar that we give people with PCOS who are looking to lose weight, people with diabetes, and it keeps their blood sugar level steady, even though it has a lot of sugar. But that's because it also has a lot of fiber. It has no dairy products, there's no oil in it, right? Which makes sure that your cholesterol levels come down, your free radical damage starts coming down. In fact, in diabetes, one of the things that happens is there is an accumulation of fat inside our cells. And I'm not talking about the fat that you can see outside, like the literal fat that you see on the body. I'm not talking about that, although that's also a contributing factor. I'm talking about tiny microscopic droplets of fat that sit inside our muscles, our liver and pancreas, which actually cause free radical damage. They cause insulin resistance. They block the glucose from entering muscles. They cause beta cell loss. They kill off the insulin producing cells in the pancreas. eventually leading to less number of beta cells and less amount of pancreas in the blood. Research shows that by the time you're diabetic, about half of your beta cells are already wiped out. They've already been killed. The good news is that when you start consuming a healthy diet and following a healthy lifestyle, in just 2 years' time, your blood sugar levels can return your pancreatic function can return almost back to its maximum capacity. That, my friends, is the healing power of the body, healing power of nature. So this is what we eat for breakfast, for snacks, and for pre-workout and post-workout. And whenever we feel like a snack, we have a couple of these in the fridge at all times. And this is what I'm going to eat for dinner today. So we have at Sampoorna Ahara, we also have a no plastic policy. We don't use plastic for anything. This is a dinner box slightly bigger than my head, which has plenty of food that's enough for me. I joke to a lot of people that Sampoorna Ahara may be one of the few tiffin box services in India that actually still use tiffin boxes. And I'm so glad that we do that, setting an example that I hope others will follow. So every Sampoorna Ahara meal comes with 5 boxes, right? And I recommend that you do the same at home as well. It's very, very simple to remember. We start off with a fruit starter. So today we have grapes and bananas, green grapes and bananas. My mouth is already watering. And this is my usual dinner time also. I eat at 5:30, so I'm starting to get hungry. So we have my grapes and bananas here. We start every meal with fruits, right? They are the easiest to digest. They are delicious. They are our most natural food. You think about it, you go into a forest, you're looking for food to eat. What do you look for? You don't look for a rabbit, you look for an apple, you look for a cherry hanging from a tree. And our senses, our hands are designed perfectly to pluck fruit and eat them. We find them delicious, and they're easy to find for an animal like us in the forest. So you start off with a fruit. What this does is it is a food with low calorie density. And this is especially important when you're trying to lose weight and reach your ideal weight if you're overweight to begin with. Right? Let me explain a little about what does calorie density mean. It's a little different from your regular calories that you're used to talking about, right? So calorie restriction, eating less food, is what most people are familiar with. That's going on a diet. And we all know diets don't work. You can go on a diet, but eventually you're going to go off the diet, and any benefits you experience are going to go out the window, and all that fat and disease is going to come back, right? Simply because a diet is temporary. A diet means my doctor told me not to eat this rasagulla, so I'm not going to eat it. I will see you after 3 months, right? So instead, if you start your meal with foods that have low calorie density, you can eat as much as you want and still end up having eaten very little calories, right? I'll explain what I mean, although it sounds impossible. If you compare the amount of calories found in this bowl of fruit to an equal quantity of a sweet like rasagullas or gulab jamun, it's completely different. For example, 1 cup of gulab jamun has about 250 odd calories. The same number of calories, if you want to get it from a fruit, you would have to eat about 3/4 kg of watermelon just to get the same number of calories, right? Which is a huge amount. 1 cup of gulab jamun is not going to fill you up, but a 1/4 kg of watermelon is going to fill you up. Now, I'm not saying eat watermelon every day. What I am saying is start your meal with plenty of fruits, plenty of salads, which brings me to our next course. So we have here a tomato, radish, and dill salad. And it has cucumber, it has radishes, it has tomatoes, and it has a really nice creamy dressing, which if I tilt it any further, it's going to fall down. So I hope you can see that. Yeah, great. And this is very, very easy to make without using any dairy at all. The way we do it is by using whole nut butters at the Sampoorna Ahara kitchen. So instead of, your usual salad dressing will come with heavy cream or an oil base, What we do instead is we use nut butters. We have peanut butter, we have cashew butter. I'm sorry, my overzealous tilting has spilt a little of the salad dressing on the keyboard. I hope the keys still work. All right. So yeah, so we have, we make our salad dressings with peanut butter, we make it with cashew butter, we make them with almond butter, which are amazingly creamy and delicious. And they have that faint nutty taste as well. Throw in some herbs, throw in some seasoning, some garlic, some onions, some ginger, some miso paste, some parsley, dill leaves, coriander, pudina. It's up to you. The possibilities are endless. Salads need not be boring. They can be as delicious and interesting as you want them to be. So after the first two courses, we move on to the vegetable course and the grain course, which comes at the end. So in the typical Indian meal, you're going to see a big mountain of rice or a big bowl of idlis or 3-4 rotis on the plate. Then you'll see these small, sad cups of vegetables on the side. We need to reverse that trend. The vegetables need to take center stage and the grains on the side. Whole grains are amazingly healthy foods for us to eat, right? But the benefit that we get from whole grains tops off at about 3 servings a day. That's equal to about 1.5 cups of cooked rice or 3 chapatis or 3 idlis. And I'm talking about the entire day. That's it. No matter how much you eat more than that, you're not going to get any added benefit in terms of reduction in chronic disease risk, right? So when we plan our meals, we plan every meal with exactly that quantity of whole grains. So today we have a paddu or a paniyaram, which is usually shallow fried in oil. But this one right here is baked in an oven. Not a single drop of oil has been used, right? So we actually baked this paddu and it is absolutely delicious and it's really soft and light inside, right? Just like your regular usual paddu. And we give 6 or 7 of these. And tonight, along with this, we have a peanut chutney and a bindi sambar, vendakai sambar. And I'm not going to tell this any further. So you have the sambar, you have your chutney and your paddu, which is what we're used to eating, which is absolutely delicious food. I can eat this all day long, and I have for the last year and a half. This, from the Sampoorna Ahara kitchen. Now, this is the kind of food that I'm talking about. Not talking about just going on a diet and eating boring food every day. I'm talking about eating absolutely delicious, amazing, yummy food and staying healthy at the same time. For some of our meals, we have a meal called the Desi Gourmet meal, where we give a couple of extra stuff. For example, check out this vada, right, with a hole in the middle. And this vada is baked as well. It's not fried in oil. It's baked in an oven. It has a nice outer cover and it's really soft inside. And we have a kaju ilaichi burfi, which has 0 sugar. There are no milk solids. There's no milk powder. There's no milk. There's no dairy. It's made with cashews, dates, and some spices that we threw in to make it absolutely delicious. And that's it. It's as simple as that. It's very simple to make, even if you'd like to make it at home, right? So if any of you would like to learn how to cook a whole food plant-based diet, we have an online course available on our website, nutritionscience.in. Would highly recommend that all of you join the course. It's a free course called the 21-day plant-based kickstart. I'm sure FIAPO has some courses on vegan cooking as well. Do check them out. And, I hope that they're able to help you start making a change for yourself and your family, start eating healthier. When I started off as a doctor, I would sit for, in my consultations, and typically go to a doctor, you'll spend about 15, 20 minutes with the doctor. But I would start spending 3 hours with each patient. By the end of it, yes, we got a little tired each consultation, but we had learned everything we need to learn to live a longer, healthier life for ourselves and our families. Then eventually we realized that it's not a very workable solution because I could only meet so many people in my entire life. So we started conducting online workshops on nutritionscience.in. Someone has asked if we can share the link. I'll be happy to. It's also there on the poster of this particular webinar that was shared. It's nutritionscience.in. So feel free to go out there and check it out. I hope you find it useful. And once we started the courses, people started joining. They started learning to cook at home. They would cook, and I would get photos of pasta and pizza and burgers and cutlets and paisams and kheer and no samples, just the photos, right, on our support groups, making me hungry. Delicious food that all our members started making. And eventually, every one of them started asking us, look, this is great. Now I've learned how to cook at home. But is there anyone who can also cook this food and deliver it to my home? That'll make it so easy. We realized that there's a growing need for plant-based food industry to begin in India. So we created sampoornaahara.com, which is India's first whole food plant-based social enterprise. In the last 1 year, in 2020, I'm happy to share that we have served over 2,200 families with over 20,000 meals and 10,000 special items, other products. And we have also been able to empower over 50 farmers to switch to plant-based agriculture without chemicals and serve food to our community here in Bangalore. And doing this, we compared to the average Indian diet, we've been able to save more than 11,000 animal lives, more than 4,000 liters of milk, which directly translates to one cow and her calves saved from the slaughterhouse. And we also have we follow a system called fractal entrepreneurship. And if you're interested to know more, feel free to get in touch. We'll be happy to share. You can also check out our website, fractalentrepreneurship.org. It is the Fractal Entrepreneurship Foundation, which incubates Sampoorna Ahara, which taught us our model, where we want to grow as far as we can to support as many people as possible to come out of poverty, to provide for themselves and their families while serving delicious, cruelty-free food all across India. That's our dream. I'm happy that we're achieving it step by step. Very happy to be here with all of you, such a wonderful, vibrant community, and so many healthcare practitioners here as well. And thank you, FIAPO, for organizing this course. Thank you all for joining. I'd be very happy to answer any questions that you have and share more information.
I think for one, I'm very hungry right now. I'm pretty sure all those people out here who've been sitting are now thinking about what's going to be there in the dinner. And it's so delicious. I mean, I have never seen somebody talk about whole food plant-based diet in such a delicious way. I've literally been just looking at the food. It's so amazing. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk that you gave today.
Absolutely.
And we do have a lot of questions. I think
Great.
so. Some of the questions are here already in the Q&A box. And okay, great. People are still posting their questions. That's great.
Great.
So maybe we can, at the same time, start pitching some of the questions with you. So the first one says, which is the best way or form to have amla, depending upon the season and everything?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Sure. So I'll answer it this way. The best way to eat amla is the way that you enjoy eating it. That's it, right? As much as you can, I mean, as often as you can, 1 or 2 amlas a day is sufficient. That's the dose that's been found to be therapeutic. So the way we use it at Sampoorna Ahara is we grate it, we grind it, we chop it up, and we use it in our salads. We garnish our sambars with it. We garnish our chutneys. We mix it with rice. So usually people tend to put honey or ghee or oil or sugar and make it into a pickle that can be preserved on the shelf. But you actually get amlas most months of the year today. And the other months, you can always get your amla powder and eat about a spoon of it. You can use it instead of amchur powder. You can use amla powder, or instead of lemon juice or tamarind, you can put some amla powder in your sambar, and that works out really, really well. It's quite sour, so you might need to think about that when you put it in a dish. It'll make it slightly sour, just like if you put lemon juice in it. So that's the flavor profile. You can use it in practically any dish that you like, which can turn a little sour.
So that's amazing. I think so this thing that you said about people make it into a pickle. I just want to ask, these candies, sometimes people in the name of amla, you go and you buy those dry candy. Are they really valuable in terms of nutrition? Do they
Sure.
do the same thing?
Sure. So there are two things. One is dried amla powder is what has been used in the studies to prove that it's effective, right? So you dry an amla, technically, yes, it's still healthy. You should be able to eat it. Of course, it destroys the vitamin C, which you get from fresh amla, but it still contains the other phytonutrients, which are going to give you that reduction in, lipoprotein A and the great health benefits. So that's good. The problem is the sugar, jaggery, honey, or salt that get added to the amla to make that pickle or to make that candied amla or the preserved amla, right? The more salt you consume, the more sweeteners you consume, the less healthy you get. The typical, I'll share a little bit about, especially about salt, right? The typical Indian salt consumption is about 10 to 12 grams of salt every day. And this is one of our leading dietary risk factors for death, causing our number one risk factor, which is high blood pressure. Salt is a huge contributor to it, high dietary sodium. So at Sampoorna Ahara, every one of our meals is sodium controlled. We use low salt. When people sign up for our meals, every single person, we call them up and we tell them, look, we'll send you your meals, but for the first few days, your food might just taste like cardboard if you're used to eating a high salt food before at home. And this is true. It takes a few days, but what happens is the tongue adapts. Within 5 days, your tongue gets resensitized to such an extent that you're able to taste amazing, delicious, natural flavors, which you were never able to taste before. It's like you've gotten a new superpower that you never knew you had. You eat a boiled sweet potato, it can taste too sweet. You eat a deli carrot, it can taste extremely salty, which you may not realize if you're eating a high salt diet. So what we do is for the first few days, we add a bit of extra salt just to give you that, the feeling of the salt that you eat at home. And then we slowly taper it down so that you slowly, sneakily get used to eating a low salt food, low salt meals, and we're able to bring down your dietary salt consumption. We've had people who came to us with a blood pressure of over 200 within a few weeks, brought it down to 120 just by eating the Sampoorna Ahara meals every day. We've had people who learned plant-based cooking from us. We have a course called the Plant-Based Diet Masterclass on nutritionscience.in, where we teach everything you need to know about disease prevention using plant-based nutrition. And even people with disease can learn it and start reversing it with consultations and stuff. So we guide them to actually reduce blood pressure, and salt restriction is an important part of that. Right? So with the amla, the preserved amla, if it has added stuff, I won't recommend it, but if it's just dried amla, go for it.
That's great. That's amazing. Thank you for clarifying that. So I have never seen so many questions. There are 16 open questions, and I invite you to fill them as they are.
The more the better.
Yeah. So the first one is it true that the nutrients are destroyed in microwave oven?
Okay. That's a good question. So in case of some nutrients, for example, cholesterol, that gets damaged when you cook it in a microwave oven. So, I don't remember the specifics, but there is a video about this on our mentor and advisor, Dr. Michael Greger's website, nutritionfacts.org, which many of you may be familiar with, about what happens to the cholesterol in chicken when you microwave it. It actually becomes even more unhealthy than it already is. But when you cook plant foods, in a microwave oven, it appears to actually retain more antioxidants than if you cook it on the stove. The reason for this is because it gets cooked faster, right? So less amount of time means less nutrient damage. So it actually retains a little more nutrition than otherwise. But you can get the same amount of nutrition by eating 2-3 extra spoons of sabji. That's about the difference. But unless the microwave oven is leaking or you accidentally drop it on your foot, it's not going to harm, especially if you're on a plant-based or vegan diet.
Okay. So the next question is it always necessary or required to take guidance from someone whilst trying to start a whole food plant-based diet?
All right. So I put it this way, if you have a disease that you're looking to reverse, I would always recommend doing it under medical supervision, simply because there are so many factors involved. It could be something simple, or it could be something that could cause a complication if you don't watch out. I'll also tell you the kind of complications we're talking about, right? There was a study conducted by one of the biggest, a paper published by one of the biggest insurance companies in the world, Kaiser Permanente, few years back, which said that, recommend plant-based diets, which told its doctors, recommend plant-based diets to all your patients because it reduces cholesterol, it reduces blood pressure, reduces blood sugar, reduces weight, stops people from dying, and saves us a lot of money, because that's when insurance companies benefit, when you don't fall sick, which is when you also benefit, right? So they also listed the risks, which included that the sugar, blood pressure, weight will drop too fast and therefore needs to be monitored, right? So like the biggest side effects you could think of are good ones. It may work too well, right? But if you are on medications, then I definitely recommend doing it under a doctor's guidance so that they can help you to taper down those medications in a way that's safe for you. If you are healthy to begin with, then just go for it. We have plenty of resources available online that show you how to eat 100% healthy, balanced whole food plant-based diet. We have a 21-day plant-based kickstart on nutritionscience.in, which we put up exactly for this reason. Right? We have 3 weeks of daily videos. We have more than 200 whole food plant-based recipes on our website, which you can access for free. It includes links out to apps like Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, which gives you a checklist of foods that you can eat every day for optimal health. It tells you how to make different kinds of desserts and smoothies and your main Indian dishes, shows you what to do for special occasions, what do you do when you go out, eating out, how do you talk to your family and friends about it. It's like a complete starter kit. So, feel free to sign up. And if you have any questions, you can always comment in our discussion forum. I'm sure FIAPO also has groups where there are experts to help you, guide you. Having said all of this, going on a plant-based diet only has benefits that you can achieve. As long as you're eating a well-balanced diet and you're supplementing vitamin B12 and vitamin D if you don't get enough sun exposure, then you're absolutely good to go. You're muted, Sarita.
Sorry. I was too excited. So I think we can bring the questions to you as well. So if people have more questions and we don't have a lot of time right now, so please feel free to leave them here. We'll take it to him and maybe you can answer it to us and we can bring it back. You can mail us at mail@fiapo.org. And you also, if you do not know, there are social media pages, right, on Instagram for Sampoorna Ahara and nutritionscience.in. And Dr. Achyuthan is also there on Instagram. So you can also reach out to him through these platforms. There's one very interesting question amidst all of these. It says, are there any medical conditions that require consumption of meat or fish or eggs or dairy products? Also, what about the health benefits of things like buttermilk and curd, etc.?
Sure. So let me answer this in 2 parts. And there is one medical condition that requires the consumption of a specific amino acid, certain kinds of proteins that are found in meat, right? But That's an extremely rare genetic condition, which if you're diagnosed with it, you can always take a supplement and eat a whole food plant-based diet that's perfectly healthy for you. Barring that small, tiny group of people in the world, for a general population, for an average human being, eating a whole food plant-based diet is the healthiest way to go. Right? I'll give you an example that you can use to visualize this easily. Right? If you take a deer from India, from America, or from any other country, what does the deer eat? A deer eats grass. We all know it. It's as simple as that, right? So you take any deer from any part of the world, give it grass, and most likely it's going to be healthy, right? Just like that, you take any human being from any part of the world, our physiologies are so similar that eating a whole food plant-based diet is practically the healthiest way for us to live. Our bodies do have the capacity to heal. It has the capacity to withstand some damage, but research shows that's only about 5 to 10% of your diet. If you eat 5 to 10% unhealthy foods, then your body can heal it and you can stay healthy. The problem is that level of moderation is extremely difficult. 5-10% of your diet is like 2 spoons of oil makes up 5-10% of your daily diet, right? And you take 2 spoons of oil in your food, and you shouldn't be eating any other animal or processed food that day. Right? If you really want to calculate all of this and you're totally healthy and you've eaten a completely healthy diet all your life, then go for it. But a much, much easier way is to simply eat healthy foods day in, day out without having to worry about all of these nuances. The health benefits of buttermilk and curds, I'm assuming you're referring to the probiotics, the good bacteria which live in buttermilk and curds. Now, okay, so maybe don't visualize this, but every time you pass stool, about 50% of the weight of that stool is actually a bacterial colony. The other 50% is the food you ate previous day or the previous meal time, right? What happens when you eat food? It goes to your intestine, you finish digesting, absorbing whatever you can. Then the bacteria that live in your gut, in your intestine, start feasting on that food. If you've eaten a fiber-rich diet, then the good bacteria thrive, because to put it very simply, good bacteria eat fiber, bad bacteria eat protein, right? So the good bacteria eating fiber is fermentation. The bad bacteria eating protein is putrefaction. That's the name for it. So you eat a fiber-rich diet, the good bacteria feast on it, they grow bigger, they break up the fiber, they release phytonutrients for your body to absorb so that you can stay healthy. They create short-chain fatty acids, which reduce inflammation, and a whole bunch of other stuff. There are actually these people who are called, what is the name? Fecal transplant super donors or something like that, which basically means that there are medical treatments called fecal transplant, where they take feces from a healthy person and put it into the intestine of a person who is unhealthy, suffering from obesity or diabetes or hypertension, and they actually get better simply because of the good bugs in the healthy person. The way you become a fecal transplant super donor, which means you can give your healthy poop to tons of people, is by eating a healthy whole food plant-based diet. So all you need to do is eat a fiber-rich diet which naturally contains fiber, and your bacteria thrive. You don't need to take probiotics in any form unless you're taking an antibiotic or you have a disease that is killing off your gut microbiome, in which case you can always take a supplement and eat plenty of fruits and vegetables and regenerate your gut microbiota in a matter of days to weeks. So in a nutshell, buttermilk curds is not required for their probiotic benefit. In fact, all you need to do is to eat a fiber-rich diet, and your own gut microbiome can be well fed without needing to add any further bacteria into it. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, very, very elaborate sense. Thank you.
Sure.
There are some questions about PCOS, and
Mhm.
if I can take the leverage to say that we
Sure.
also have a recorded webinar version where we've only talked about how PCOS can be reversed on a plant-based diet. So we'd invite people to look at that as well. But there are some other questions about, somebody said the whole food plant-based sometimes also lead to digestive issues, especially after water consumption. So, what are the rules of drinking water while taking a plant-based diet?
Sure, sure. So what happens when you go from a low fiber diet to a high fiber diet is your good bacteria get very, very happy and excited because they have plenty of food. They've been starving for so many days and they go crazy. They feast on all of it. They grow, grow, grow and build a huge colony. But this also produces a lot of gas, right? That's what happens when you suddenly switch from a low fiber to a high fiber diet, especially if you're older, if you're in your 50s or 60s and you're not used to eating plenty of fruits and vegetables. You've been on a white rice and curd rice diet for most of your life, especially in those years, and then you eat a big bunch of chana and a big bowl of raw salad, you're going to end up with some gas. But the good news is that this only lasts for about 1 month's time. Within a month, the gut microbiome stabilizes and that excess gas production reduces. It comes back to normal. The way that you can do this, if you're experiencing these symptoms, is just to go slow. For example, instead of jumping from white rice to red rice or brown rice directly, go for a mix of the two for a week or two, right? Half white and half brown, and then switch to brown completely. Instead of going for 2 cups of dal at every meal, start with half a cup, start with 1 cup, and then make it 1.5 the next week, and then 2 cups after that. So that when you slowly, gradually increase your fiber intake, you don't experience these symptoms much at all. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with water intake as far as I know. So feel free.
Great. So, connected to that, like you just gave an example of rice, somebody has a question saying that what is the value in giving up rice, switching to millets?
Sure. So there is immense value in giving up white rice, but brown rice, red rice, black rice are all great healthy grains to consume. There is also another problem with rice though, and that is it has the tendency to soak up arsenic from the soil, especially in Western countries where the use of arsenic-rich pesticides was higher. The rice that you find in the markets there do contain a higher level of arsenic. In India, I'm not sure of the data, but you can look it up on pubmed.gov and look at arsenic rice India. Just search for it, and you should be able to find the latest research on how much arsenic is there in rice in India today. A few years back, the studies that I read indicated that the arsenic levels in India are a lot lower than in other countries. So it was still safe to consume. But apart from that, white rice is no fiber, low fiber, and no phytonutrients, because all the phytonutrients are in the outer bran. You remove the bran, you polish it, it becomes unhealthy for you. So you go for unpolished whole grains, which can be rice, which can be millets, which can be wheat, oats, any whole grains of your choice. Among these, millets seem to have an edge over rice and wheat because they have a higher concentration of phytonutrients than rice and wheat do. So, all whole grains are healthy. White rice is unhealthy. White millets are also unhealthy. You go to the shop and you ask for millets, you might end up getting polished millets. So do watch out. Whether it's rice, wheat, or millets, make sure that it is unpolished, unrefined, and whole. That's the formula to use.
So we're at 6:06, and thank you for all these answers. You're so brilliant, elaborately giving these answers, so leaves no room for the doubt. There's one question that has come here about supplements. Two different people have asked. So one is about, on plant-based diet, is there a need for additional supplements? And the other question is, what is your take on daily consumption of probiotic supplements?
Sure. I think the probiotic supplements we answered, they are needed when you're taking antibiotics or when you have a loose motion or a disease that's killing off your gut microbiome, then it's required. But otherwise, you don't need it. All you need to do is eat a fiber-rich diet, feed your own gut microbiome so that they can grow and stay healthy. But other supplements, we recommend that every person, regardless of whether you're eating a plant-based diet or not, there are two vitamins that are not produced by plants, but you need these in order to survive and stay healthy, stay alive, forget about healthy. And you need vitamin B12 and vitamin D. Vitamin D is produced by animals like human beings when you have 20 to 30 minutes of direct sunlight exposure on the face and arms every day. So if you're in a country and a time and space where you're able to get the sun exposure, great. If you're not able to do this, then vitamin D3, 2000 IU, IU stands for international units, 2000 IU every day after lunch is the best way to go, so that you don't have a vitamin D deficiency, which then you'll end up with a calcium deficiency and broken bones and stuff like that, which we don't want, right? So vitamin D3, 2000 IU daily or 20-30 minutes of sunlight daily. The second one is vitamin B12, which is not produced by plants, not produced by animals, but made by bacteria, which live in soil, in nature. And so this is kind of the nature vitamin. You live in a forest, you will be getting enough vitamin B12. It's there in natural streams, natural rivers, water bodies. It's there on fruit that you pluck from a tree. It's there in the mud. It's there in your stool. It's there in animals' stool, dung that you find in the forest. So a little bit of it will be going in every day. But you might also end up with cholera and worms. So we live more sanitized lifestyles in the city, which prevent those diseases. Unfortunately, it also prevents vitamin B12 from entering our system. So we recommend everyone take a supplement of cyanocobalamin. That is the vitamin B12 that we recommend. That's the form that's been proven to be the safest and most effective. I'll say it again, it's called cyanocobalamin, either 50 to 70 micrograms every day or 2000 micrograms once a week is the recommended dose for people up to age 65, sorry. Beyond age 65, there is only one option, and that is 1000 micrograms every day. So that'll keep you hale and healthy. You can order it online, get a supplement, and you can start. We have also created at Sampoorna Ahara a Flaxseed B12 Laddu, which are these small mini laddus, which we actually serve as part of every meal. I will show you one here. There we go. Yeah. So this is, oops, sorry. Different boxes falling down. Thank you. All right. So this is a flaxseed B12 laddu, small fellow. This laddu has 70 micrograms of cyanocobalamin. So we fortify it with cyanocobalamin so that you can either go in for a tablet every day or you can go in for a laddu every day, which is my preferred method of getting in my cyanocobalamin. Those are the two supplements that we recommend on a daily basis.
Thank you. So we'll just take two more questions. I think we have overshot our time here, but there are still 15 questions, open questions. And I think
should do a follow-up webinar sometime.
Yes, we should, and people are still staying on for it. So there is a question about what is the difference between microgreens and sprouts and how do we include it in our meals?
Sure. So you take a legume, you soak it in water, then you wrap it in a cloth, it starts sprouting. And that's a sprout. You leave it for a few days, it starts growing its leaves, and that's a microgreen. That's about it. It's slightly older sprout becomes a microgreen. Both sprouts and microgreens are great. They're extremely healthy food because when a plant creates a seed, it does not want an animal to eat up that seed because, it's quite literally the plant's baby and it wants it to grow into another plant, right? So it packs the seed with some slight poisons, some slight toxins, anti-nutrients, which deter animals from eating it. I mean, raw chana, raw moong dal, not going to taste great, right? So it packs those things. And then when the seed sprouts, it removes all of these toxins, poisons, anti-nutrients, and it starts packing itself with good nutrients so that it can grow up into a healthy plant. So from that perspective, the sprouts or microgreens may be slightly healthier than the legumes themselves, but eating the legumes directly is also amazingly, amazingly healthy. So we have a sister initiative called Urban Mali, which trains farmers who have migrated to Bangalore looking for work and ended up doing labor in the construction industry, which takes them and teaches them to do chemical. I mean, they already know chemical-free agriculture from the villages that they're from. And we give them a platform where they can do the same for gardens in Bangalore. They make all kinds of wonderful, so they make these gardens that actually attract butterflies. They're called butterfly gardens, and they can fill your home with butterflies in a matter of weeks. Dog gardens and kid-friendly gardens, all kinds of fancy stuff, all with native plants. One of the initiatives they have is to grow microgreens, which we use at Sampoorna Ahara in many of our salads. So we garnish it with a bit of microgreens on top, and they're delicious, crunchy, and yummy. So either the legume or the sprout or the microgreen, they are all amazingly healthy too.
Thank you. So I'm a bit biased. There are two questions here, and they both seem like related to the topic a lot. So one has asked that, can we reverse type 1 diabetes in any way?
Sure. So type 1 diabetes, unlike type 2, is a condition that unfortunately cannot be reversed in a majority of cases. What happens is that it is an autoimmune condition where the insulin producing cells of the body get wiped out over the first few years of life. And then you don't have any insulin producing cells left in order to try and reverse the condition. But when a person with type 1 diabetes starts eating a healthier diet, their sugar levels come down, their cholesterol comes down, their weight comes down, their need for insulin reduces, so the side effects of any medications that they're taking also reduces, their life expectancy improves, they're able to live longer, healthier lives, which is great. Right? And when research also shows that in young children who have just been diagnosed with diabetes, when you switch them immediately to a whole food plant-based diet, there is even a chance that you will be able to put the type 1 diabetes into remission for many, many years. In fact, it happened recently with a patient of mine who was, I think, 4 or 5 years old, and recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. His parents called me and they immediately switched him to a whole food plant-based diet. It was difficult to get a young child to give up all his favorite junk and start eating healthy at home. But there are a lot of tips and tricks that we teach them in order to do that. A lot of healthy junk that you can make at home, like I showed you on our website, Sampoorna Ahara. So they did all of that. And within 2 months, they called me and told me that we have stopped giving him insulin as per his doctor's orders. His sugar levels are completely normal once again. Right? Now, there's always a chance that the diabetes will come back at some point in the future because of the nature of the disease. But imagine 5 years of a child's life, hopefully, where he doesn't need to take those insulin injections every day. That's amazing. Right? And research also shows that type 1 diabetes may be caused by animal proteins, which we consume, which children consume, which mothers consume. There is not a strong link that has been proven until today, so we don't have a definite cause, but there are associations that have been found with this. So avoiding animal foods can help you to treat type 2 diabetes. It may also help to prevent and treat type 1 diabetes as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Eswar. I think we'll just take these questions to you from a different platform. I'll mail these questions and we'll get the answers. And a lot of questions have been asked anonymously, but we'll make sure that somehow, maybe through Instagram stories or something, you get to have your answers. And if you want, you can mail these questions to us at mail@fiapo.org. And for now, I think we will have to close because we're well beyond time. It's 6:16. And thank you for doing this session with us. I think we definitely need a follow-up session for this, because it seems
Absolutely.
like people
Looking
have
forward
had.
to it.
Yes.
Great.
So it's really amazing. Thank you so much for so deliciously and so just, I found the most interesting session where one could really learn from so many examples, and from the basic biology, you could remember, like, how what happens because of the glucose not being able to, get stored in your cells. It's really amazing. Thank you so much for being so elaborate and being so kind to spend this time with us and helping us understand the importance of plant-based diet. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you so much, Sarita, Jagrati, and Team FIAPO for organizing this session. Wishing you all the very best, and wishing everyone who attended this session all the very best. If there's anything I can do for any one of you, please feel free to get in touch through our websites, nutritionscience.in, sampoornaahara.com. I hope they're also able to help you and your families live healthier, live a more compassionate lifestyle as well. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Just want to tell all of the attendees, we do have a recorded version of this. You can also go back to Facebook. There will be a post on FIAPO's page. You can watch it there. And in a week's time, this will be up on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to share this with your friends, family members, watch it again for your benefit. Thank you for being such a patient audience here and on Facebook Live. Thank you. I hope you all have a great weekend, and you also start making a shift to a very healthy and happy lifestyle. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Be blessed.